Okay, Sonia?
I'm ready.
California, they call that fashionably late. Nobody gets anywhere on time in California.
That's true. Or Florida, I noticed.
Okay, I'll call to order the Stokes Reynolds Memorial Hospital Board of Trustees meeting, and we'll start with asking Commissioner beside me here to do the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord. We thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for another beautiful day. Go with us, Lord, as we conduct business for the county and the hospital that may be pleasing to you and to others. Lord, bless our men and women that's on fire and soul to give us this freedom we have today. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Yeah. Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item is the ethics statement. I'll read it right quick. It's the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to the matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from undue participation in that particular matter. Any conflicts? Okay, the next item is general discussion. Before I get to that one, I would say we don't have the minutes for the last meeting since this meeting was called on short notice, but we'll have the minutes from both this meeting and that meeting at a December meeting, which we definitely plan to have a December Board of Trustees meeting. As I mentioned, this meeting wasn't originally planned, but Commissioner Nicholson on Saturday requested that we go ahead and do it this month, and the topic he gave me is general discussion. So at this time I'll turn the floor over to him and go to the general discussion topic.
Okay. Actually, one of the things, I see it's already on the agenda. There was two topics I wanted to discuss. The first one was a CMS vaccine mandate that was issued on November 4th for all healthcare facilities. Is it okay if we just go ahead and talk about that as well? Okay. Pam, can you give us some information on that, please?
Sure. You've probably all seen in the news that CMS had been talking about doing a mandate for all nursing homes and hospitals for the vaccine. We had not taken any action formally to start any policies or procedures because our state associations and national associations were giving some feedback. We have sort of two groups that we report to and that we work with. For the hospital side, it's the North Carolina Healthcare Association, and for the nursing home side, it's the North Carolina Healthcare Facilities Association. So for the nursing home specifically, we had been getting guidance that they felt there would be a mandate, but that there would be a provision for testing if somebody chose not to have the vaccine. It became very apparent when they were doing the rollout on Thursday that they were not going to be putting that provision in, and we were going to have to go ahead and start working on our policies and procedures to go ahead with the vaccine mandate. We had a call on Friday with that North Carolina Healthcare Facilities Association. Actually, that was with the National Association. And they said while they are still working on that, that we are going to be held to these deadlines that you all have been given a copy of the memo that I gave to the staff, as well as the CMS facts, which are questions and answers about this mandate. So the thing that has made this particularly unusual is that when CMS comes out with a big change, they will typically say, this is what we plan to change, and there will be a question and answer period that, or a comment period. And during that comment time, things will get changed or negotiated. Then the final rule will come out, and there will usually be an implementation time. So the last big changes I remember for the nursing home, it was so big that they did a 3-year implementation period. So that's sort of how things usually roll, to have time to respond and get your policies and procedures in place. So with this one, they're still doing that comment period for the next 60 days, but the implementation is immediate. So we have no choice but to go ahead and respond to the mandate and get things in order. The memo that I put out to staff was to ask the folks who were not vaccinated to go ahead and let me know their decision about vaccination by November 12th, so that we would have time to work with the staff. There are 2 accommodations that can be made. One would be for a medical exemption. This is very specific as to the doctor stating exactly why. It can't just be this person needs to have medical exemption. They have to give detail and sign and provide their credentials for that. The other is for religious exemption, and we're working on what policies and how that will be applied.
Would I be able to use that, the religious?
Yeah, those are the 2 acceptable exemptions. As I told the managers in our meeting today, if you're going to use the religious exemption, that is usually considered to be a strongly held personal belief. So if you weren't religious yesterday, you're going to be hard pressed to tell us that is your long-held belief now. Although we realize that people can truly, sincerely have changes in religious experiences, but we are going to be held to very strict scrutiny for this. They have said that the agencies who survey us will be given authority to survey and apply penalties if we are not doing things properly. So for the hospital side, DMV is our surveying agency, and for the nursing home side, the state will survey. So with that, if they come in and determine that we have not done things properly, they can apply what is called immediate jeopardy, a civil monetary penalty. Some of those can be $1,000 a day up to more of a penalty a day that they determine you're out of compliance. So for example, the first day that we have to comply with, if staff are going to remain on and have not provided the appropriate exemptions, then they will need to have their first vaccine by December 5th. So if they have not taken the vaccine by December 5th, they'll be looking at our documentation, and they could start the civil monetary penalties against us at that time. So the things that they're saying with this, if we accept Medicare and Medicaid funding, then we have to comply with these regulations. But really, every other insurance company, every other payer will not contract with us unless we have Medicare and Medicaid funding. So pretty much it's a general mandate.
The Fed's pulling a strong arm on you, pretty much.
Yes, sir.
Ain't there something against that?
I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Yeah.
Sorry. So the Fifth Circuit hold that it's come out over the weekend concerning the vaccine mandates, my understanding is that has to be handled by January the 4th. And I want to know, Mr. Browder, is that not true or not? Did the Fifth Circuit not put a hold on the vaccine mandate? They did. Is that, I want to hear, I didn't hear you.
The mandate on the employees.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. You have more than 100 employees, correct?
Yes, there are two rules that have come out. One is the CMS mandate. The other is the OSHA or OSHA mandate. So they're both sort of intertwined, and we have to comply with both of those components.
So when they put a hold on this, and we know that it's going to be appealed, it's going to be quite a few states, 26 states I think have already come out, and their attorney generals have said that they are going to appeal this. So if you go ahead and get everybody and give them the mandatory option of having to have it by this date, and what if the vaccine mandate is upheld as far as not making them receive it or even be tested, and you've already mandated they do it. So what's going to happen to all those people that didn't want to do it, but they did it just to save their job?
Well, first of all, it's not a me mandate, it's a CMS.
I'm saying, but you're
I am
as that
charged with
movie I saw
implementing
the
it.
other night, you're the big cheese.
So what I told the managers today is that I'm aware that there is litigation. When they rolled it out, the meetings, they said that they know there's going to be litigation, but typically that doesn't move fast, is what one of them said. you can make a comment on that if you'd like, Ty. And because that doesn't move fast, we have to move forward as though we are having to roll this out. I said to the managers today, we will make vaccines available on December 5th, so that if it has not been done by that time, my job will be to make sure I don't have anybody working after December 5th who has not been vaccinated. But if they choose to wait to that date, then we will make every accommodation we can to do that. In the interim, we'll be working to make sure that if they do have a medical condition, that we get all of that in place with medical exemptions, and we'll also be working with folks for a religious exemption.
Okay, my second question is going to relate back to what you stated earlier concerning a religious exemption. And you saying that some people maybe goes and tries to get a religious exemption, but they have not had any type of formality as far as religion goes or whatever. How is that going to be determined by whoever the determiner is as to whether it's a valid exemption or not on the religious part? How's that going to be determined?
Well, we'll have to get some legal advice on that when it comes right down to it. There have been folks at the hospital who, for the flu, mandating the flu vaccine in years past, I would expect everybody who went through getting a religious exemption at that point would bring forward the same thing now. Other folks who had not historically had that, then we'll consider that it's not trying to we will not be trying to do anything to go against someone's religion. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we're putting something out there that complies with the regulations, and that trying to think how to say. So if we've got 30 people who aren't vaccinated at this point, and I didn't bring that number with me, and all 30 of them previously have taken other vaccines and now want to do a religious vaccine, I think they would probably question how we applied it if all 30 of those people were given a religious exemption. We haven't gotten that far into it. Like I said, we were, until last Thursday, Friday, we thought the other option was going to be a testing option. So we told the staff today that we'll be working by the 12th when I asked them to let us know how they're feeling about things, that we'll try to have the papers and the exemptions ready to start meeting and going over them with them.
Well, I just have a hard time understanding how the process is going to be handled. If somebody puts down, I've been going to church since I was 2 years old, and my religion doesn't believe in this type of mandate, and they're 55 years old now, so they've been 53 years in church and they're using their religion. And then somebody else comes in and says, 2 weeks ago I was saved, and my belief now is very strongly that in my religion that I not received this mandate, but they've only been 2 weeks. How are we going to determine who it, or both telling the truth, or both not telling the truth, or how are you going to be able to determine that?
We'll look at each case individually and give it its due merit. That's all I know to say right now.
Let me interject this.
Go ahead.
Because there are people
That's
who have beliefs about this vaccine that have nothing to do with if they're saved or go to church or not go to church, because this vaccine is different than other vaccines. So whether or not they had the flu vaccine or not should not matter in this instance, to my opinion. And I'm not the decider, as you said, but because this is a different type of vaccine and a different type
I
of
was just using that as an
I
example.
know, but I'm just saying, I would hate to have to be the person that has to decide whether or not someone's beliefs are valid or not when it comes to this particular vaccine. And so why is the testing not an option? Who decided that wasn't an option?
CMS.
Okay. So you don't know a percentage of how many of your employees are not vaccinated or wish not to be vaccinated? I mean, by now, if they wanted to be, I'm sure they would be.
Between 65 and 70 employees.
Okay, thank you. So you're going to be hard pressed to replace that many people.
Well, that's what I said to the managers. I'm already working extra as much as I can do. I don't have the capacity to physically work anymore, and that's why we're going to have some tough decisions based on what people give us feedback. And that's why I feel like I need to go ahead and get this out and start having the conversation.
It's a shame that they are tying everybody's hands with this Medicaid and Medicare stuff. I mean, it's just a shame they would use that and tie everyone's hands with that. I mean, I know it puts you in a predicament. So.
And then the penalties, I mean, daily penalties can be significant.
CMS is the most dictatorial organization I've ever dealt with. They are pure dictators, and they have the authority to be when it comes to this medical stuff. where they're paying. Would you agree, Ty?
Sure, sure. And, well, not only CMS, other government agencies also. And there's no protection against that unless you have a court order in place. Locks the enforcement. We have that with OSHA for the time being. I don't think we have anything with CMS. I'm not worried.
Well, you got a question?
What do you think that court order mandate would protect us if we didn't go along with it and do the vaccination and,
Not as far as CMS.
Not at this point.
yeah.
Unless another court.
But that's exactly right.
But I
There
know,
could be another order come through.
Sure.
You know it's gonna be many appeals, a lot of legislation on this.
I know the Medicaid and Medicare stuff is real valued at the hospital. I know that. And when you talk about rest home, Pam, you talking about this y'all's facility or you talk about facilities out in the county too?
Every
Rest
facility.
home. Okay.
There are some exemptions that don't have to have, but for us, our hospital and nursing home, we absolutely fall into the mandate.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? The only question I have, Pam, is I would assume this discussion we've had here, we're talking about how you verify somebody on the religious thing. The auditors who audit you are going to have some kind of guidelines to audit how you did that, right? So they'll be the ultimate deciders of whether you did it correctly or not.
Right, and we'll put our policies and procedures in place with guidance and apply those. If they come in and decide we didn't do a good job, they can still, at that point, implement civil monetary penalties and say we're out of compliance. So we have to be very, very careful. We want to be fair and give everybody an opportunity. That's why I wanted to start the conversation with folks as soon as possible so we could.
The only other question, this applies for Forsyth Baptist, everybody, right? It's not just small hospitals or anything. Everybody's caught up in this.
Physicians' offices are an excluded group, but since ours are hospital-based and they come into the hospital, then that's going to apply. So if a physician was an independent doctor who only practiced in his office, he may not have to, but if he comes into a nursing home to do any visits or comes into a hospital to do any procedures, like a surgeon who's going to come on into the hospital would have to as well. So
You can, our next BOT meeting will be after the December 5th, so I guess maybe give us some interim updates by email or something as we go.
Pam, is one vaccine better than the other? I mean, I've heard controversy.
we have all 3 vaccines now. We'll continue to have those available. The Johnson & Johnson is the one dose. If somebody chooses that, they would still have to take that by December 5th. The Moderna and Pfizer we have now as well. But again, the mandate is that all eligible staff have to have that first dose by December 5th.
And have you reached out to Baptist and Ovant and asked them kind of how they're dealing with this?
Not formally. We know just through the associations what they're doing, but as far as looking at some of the ways they're looking at the exemptions, we certainly want to allow as much as others are allowing.
Anybody have any other comments or questions on this? Okay, then general discussion is the other topics.
Okay. This weekend I was out riding around trying to meet up with a few people in the county and just kind of talk to them. Last week I was at a Sandy Ridge Royalty meeting, speaking with them, getting them updates and stuff. But it's come to my attention from actually many people in the county, different areas, that has been told that 4 commissioners tried shutting down the hospital and they was told that from the administration of the hospital. Is there any truth to that?
No, sir.
No truth to it at all? Okay.
People have made comments about what happened in July, and I think people have made their own opinions, but no, I have not.
Okay. Because I did ask them, that it wasn't true. Where was that heard from? And it come straight back to me that the administration of the hospital said this from their mouth. So I told them that was not true. I said, as a matter of fact, the whole board themselves was trying to make sure the hospital didn't shut down at all costs. That was the main goal behind all this. Not only now, but long term. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes,
Okay.
I feel like the commissioners have been trying to look out. I do think that the path we were on in July, I was very concerned.
Okay.
I know I came down here daily to meet with the county manager and say, from everything I know about hospital operations, if we don't get something in place, we will not be able to stay open.
Right. And I know we kind of went down to the last minute on all this. There's a bunch of discussion back and forth, both sides. But it was brought up that it was told that I wanted this in closed session because I was trying to close the hospital secretly. And once again, I asked people, you're talking about different areas, different people, even the ones that don't even know each other. And they said, yeah, it was told that you was trying to do it secretly. That's why it was in closed session. I said, who did you hear this from? The administration. Administration at LifeBright. Yes, sir. So do you know anything about that?
If anybody asks me about why anything's in closed session, I know what the rules are. There are lots of things that, because of legal advice, have to be discussed.
Yeah. And originally that, Commissioner Morris, I think you had originally said something about wanting to go into closed because of the stability of the employees in the hospital, correct?
Because of what?
The instability of the employees at the hospital discussed on this.
Yeah, I mean, comments made in open session, or not just hospitals, but anything can affect businesses and people's behavior and so forth.
Correct. So that was the whole reason why we went into closed session with this.
I think there was some others, but I don't remember the detail exactly. Ty?
Well, I would like to ask this.
We were discussing lease terms,
Mm-hmm.
possible lease, sale, real property. So that was the main reason. You've got to be able to have a free and frank discussion. And if you're in an open session, you can't always have a free discussion when it affects
Mr. Chairman,
possible legal liabilities.
I have also heard that there were some people out in the communities saying that we went into closed session too many times, that we should have been more transparent or open about it, but we continually were in closed meetings. Now, I'm asking our county manager and our chairman, who advised us on whether we should go into closed session or open session? Did y'all make that decision, or did you seek advice from our attorney?
We asked our attorney.
Did you ask the attorney whether it should be an open or closed? Okay. And Mr. Chairman, did you ever go on your own without asking for legal advice on whether it should be open or closed?
No.
So we seek the advice of our legal attorney, and he guided us on when we needed to go into closed and when we needed to go into open. Is that correct?
Correct.
I want that, everybody watching this meeting, I hope you heard that, because our chairman and our county manager didn't make that decision. They sought advice from our legal attorney, and he guided them through whether it should go into closed or open.
I will add, I reviewed the agenda, and I almost always, if I have a chance, review with the county manager closed session topics. And if there's anything in there that I do not feel is proper for closed session, I say so.
You take it out, correct.
I say this
And that's always done before we come here to the meeting.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that our chairman and our county manager seek your advice on whether we needed to go into closed or open. Because I don't want the people in the Stokes County community thinking that we, as 5 commissioners, said we're going into closed without contacting you for advice. Thank you.
As what I also want to know that there was another provider being looked at. You know that. It's our job as county commissioners to make sure that this county receives the best that it can. And with all the stuff that's going on, I don't have to go into detail because it's already been out there. All of us is a little shaky about it, including yourself, correct?
With what was going on in July, absolutely.
No, with Lifebright. The indictments.
Not in a lawsuit right now with Blue Cross.
Well, certainly, I think everybody is concerned about all that's going on, but I feel like you got crossed with what we were talking about. Any time that we have had anything of a sensitive nature with legal or talking about lease terms has been talked about in closed session.
Okay.
And that's historically from 2009, 2010, when we've had all of the hospital transitions. There's proprietary information that's discussed.
Okay.
We
And I
talked
know that
about open session about the need for better contingency planning and so forth, and the Hospital Operations Committee is following the wishes of the board to do that.
Yes.
That's not,
Yeah.
that wasn't at all the question. It
Right,
was
yeah, like not then, talking about
basically,
now.
We wanted to make sure that everybody in Stokes County, 46,000 citizens, realized that we were not the ones that just magically dictated, oh, I think it's time we go into closed session tomorrow night without seeking our legal advice from our attorney. And he guided us. And it has been out there, I've heard.
Ever since I've been dealing with the county for 15 years now, I guess, or something, it's always people are suspicious about closed session, especially if you do them too often, but I don't think we've gone to any closed sessions without the attorney's approval that I'm aware of. If we did, I don't remember it.
I will always go over the rationale and justification for closed session.
Right.
To make sure that we have the proper.
Right. Thank you.
And Pam, being involved in those meetings, do you think there's any one member, I'm talking about all 5 of us on this board, that wanted to see that hospital shut down, those employees lose their jobs?
No, sir.
Okay.
I was concerned that you all had been told things that caused you to make some decisions that I could have helped you with.
Mm-hmm.
Had I been given the opportunity to speak with you about them. I was very concerned, and I think everybody knows that.
Okay.
That we were very close to a crisis.
And of course, I'm sure some of the other members on the board done a lot of research on all this stuff, trying to get as much information we can, not only from you, but from Raleigh. Had many phone calls on Raleigh, had many Zoom calls on Raleigh, different House reps, different senators. Worked with Senator Berger very closely on all this stuff, trying to find as much information as we possibly could. And when you got 2 sides in here, a lot of times, it was a lot being thrown at one time. Am I correct on that? Yeah, it was very confusing. So trying to get down to the bottom and get the truth, it took a while. Unfortunately, through all this, we ran out of time. The main thing was, there's not one person on this board right here that wanted to see that hospital go closed. Not one person. Those jobs over there were very important to me. I didn't want to see anybody lose their job. So therefore, that lease got renewed. We moved on with it. At one time, they was looking at a new provider. It didn't work out. Didn't work out, you wash your hands, you move on. I did want to make very clear that as being told that I was the ringleader in trying to shut down that hospital. That hospital is the closest thing to my house. And if I have a problem, I don't want to see that hospital door closed, because what am I going to do? Mine area's too far from it. So, and I also want to make it clear, and you wasn't involved in this, you wasn't able to make it this meeting. A couple of people had actually brought up to me about a high five that had happened between Commissioner Mendenhall, Commissioner Cox, and the high five was meant, and it was being told from the administration over here, even though I know you wasn't in that meeting. They had shut down the hospital and was high-fiving about it. And I want it made clear that was not the case at all. And once again, every one of these things I was told was two different areas of the county, two different people. These two people didn't even know each other. And there was concerns last week when I went to a Sandy Ridge Realty meeting from some. They had heard very similar things. And I can't say they heard it from administration. That's not what I was told. But the two I talked to Saturday said they talked to administration. So once again, I mean, Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Mendenhall, if y'all want to elaborate on that, but I did make it clear that no, the high five was not about wanting to shut down the hospital.
Nothing to do with the hospital at all.
I don't feel like I have answered people's questions about that had concerns, and it was a totally a different matter that we were talking about and joking about after the meeting. The cameras were still on, but it had nothing to do with the hospital at all, or Life Bright, or anybody else as far as that. It was just a matter that we were joking about, and sorry that it got misconstrued that it had anything to do with the hospital, because it did not. But there are plenty of rumors, like Andy said, swirling. Most of them can be directly tied back to the hospital, whether it's administration or just employees in general. And so with that many people saying the same thing that are vicious lies and rumors, it's concerning to us that we're being portrayed in that manner when all that we were trying to do was provide a stable provider because of the legal troubles that Life Bright is in and things that are ongoing with the lawsuit with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We felt like it would be in the best interest of the hospital to have a different provider, which is what we were trying to do. Now, we were being told a lot of different things from a lot of different sources, and it took us a while to sift through all of that to get to the truth in the end. And we agreed to renew the lease because the time was of the essence. Not because anybody wanted to keep Life Bright up there, or at least the majority of us did not. So therefore, we're moving forward with, again, trying to figure out a different provider in the future and keep the hospital open. And hopefully the money that is in the state budget will stay there and the governor will approve it, and we'll have $10 million to do a lot of good work up there. I mean, we wouldn't be wanting to do that if we were wanting to close it. We wouldn't be asking the state for this $10 million to repair it or build something else or do whatever. I mean, we would never do that. We were just trying to get it on solid ground before we did that $10 million project. So that's all I have.
And Kyle Hall is on the Appropriations Committee. He was a big help in getting that in there. And before that right there even went on, I had a discussion with different House reps. One of them was over in Yadkin County. And I told about the need that we had in this hospital. I said a couple of years ago, we was looking at $15 million just to get it up to par. What that number is, I don't know. And what the number is now, I don't know, because everything going up. When we talked, and it was asked, what if we was get like $10 million? And at first it was talking about being broken up in 3 years. And I think eventually with Kyle on there, Kyle kind of moved it to one lump sum, $10 million this year, which is a huge help. I spent several hours on the phone talking to these people to make sure we could get some money. And that's what I meant when I said, when we was talking about not wanting to shut this down, I think Stokes County gets overlooked enough. We pay our taxes like everybody else, and when it gets dispersed through the state, I think we're overlooked a whole lot, and we have been over the past several years. So one thing I want to see is start seeing some money come back into us, and that hospital's a good start. And I fought hard for that, and they agreed with me. So it made it a whole lot easier with Kyle when he was on that appropriation committee to get that money put in there for it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing. Being one of the newest commissioners, when I came on, I hadn't been a commissioner maybe 6 months, and all this started discussing it, and I had no clue about any of it, to be honest with you, till it all started up. And one statement you did make is true. There was a lot of misguiding information out there. And I, for one, listened to some of it, but I didn't make my decision off of it, because the last thing that I want is to see that hospital close. Because that's where my parents go, that's where my grandson goes, to the new pediatric doctor, which he loves very much. And that was nowhere in my mind to even think about closing that hospital. I mean, through the EMS service, that's where I cut my teeth at, over here at this hospital. Nurse after nurse helping me get through class after class. So I've got a big part in this hospital as well, as far as getting knowledge and stuff like that. But no, that never entered my mind. But again, you know, I will not base my decision on somebody else's opinion. And I'll leave it at that.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? We don't have a need for a closed session, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
If I could say one thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
I have said on more than one occasion to all of you that you have my phone number. If there's any questions about anything that's said or that happens at the hospital, I would encourage you all to call me. I know that there's a lot that goes on Facebook and gets spread around on Facebook. I had lots of employees bring me their phones and share Facebook comments. And I know that I'm not going to make a decision on what people's Facebook posts are any more than I can control any other behaviors. But certainly, I think you all know I'm about helping make sure you all have all the credible information you can have about how hospitals run, what CMS mandates, and what things I'm required to do. And that's the business I'm about.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Oh, you can't talk from the floor. Nope, sorry. Ty, do you have any comment? All right, well, you can talk after the meeting if you'd like to with us. We got a motion and a second, right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Till 6 p.m.
You got a nice little break.